All right, welcome to another episode of Power Bros Crypto. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. All right, so we're going to be talking about Russia tonight and their effect on crypto. Now, I do believe that before Russia invaded the Ukraine, they made Bitcoin legal tender for a reason because they knew the Russian ruble was going to drop in value, and so they needed to hold value in something, and they did in Bitcoin. So a lot of things that they're talking about are here. I'll pull this up. Here's an article by or something happened with Elizabeth Warren. See what comes up here. Yeah, this 4 days ago. Senator Warren's question at a hearing on crypto in Russia.
The cryptocurrency market has exploded over the past few years, with the volume of crypto transactions reaching nearly $16 trillion last year. That's up about 600% just from 2020. Now, most of that growth has been driven by speculation and gambling, but we also know that crypto provides a new payment option for criminals and cheats. And it's how those who attack our systems with ransomware collect their money with the least risk that they will be caught. In fact, according to one of our witnesses who's here with us today, about 3/4 of the money collected in ransomware attacks last year went to Russia-linked actors. So Russians certainly know how to run illegal scams through crypto. And we know that other countries have used crypto to evade sanctions. Mr. Levin, your company tracks illicit finance in crypto. Do you know which countries have already used crypto to evade sanctions?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. It's an incredibly important issue and something that we spend a lot of time researching and detecting, actually. So when it comes to sanctions evasion, the transparency of the blockchain actually does...
Excuse me, my question was, do you know the 3 countries that have already used crypto in order to evade financial sanctions?
We have detected the use of cryptocurrency in Venezuela, Iran, and North Korea.
Okay. And just last week, FinCEN, the federal agency responsible for identifying financial crimes, issued a warning that in light of the sanctions against Russia, quote, sanctioned persons, illicit actors, and their related networks or facilitators may attempt to use crypto and anonymizing tools to evade U.S. sanctions and protect their assets around the globe, end quote. Even so, the crypto industry claims that Russians cannot use crypto to hide their wealth because the $3 trillion crypto market is too small and too transparent for that to work. So let's test that out just a little bit. Mr. Levin, let's consider one of Putin's cronies who already has $1 billion or so in crypto that he wants to hide from the governments that are enforcing sanctions on oligarchs. Now, can this oligarch make it harder to trace his money if he hops from one blockchain to another, if he deposits those tokens into a couple of wallets that don't require him to provide identifying information, and if he uses a mixing service that launders his money with other people's money?
Thank you, Senator. So the scenario that you describe, where an oligarch has $1 billion to be able to launder, requires significant amounts of liquidity to be able to obfuscate that amount of money through the use of cryptocurrency. In fact, many times we've been able to identify...
I'm sorry, let me just remind you of what my question was again. What I'm asking is about the tools that are available. Now, he may have to break it up into multiple pieces of, who knows, $100 million at a crack. But the question I'm asking is, does hopping from one blockchain to another, does depositing tokens in a couple of wallets that don't require him to provide identifying information, and does using a mixing service all make it easier for him to hide his money?
So, Senator, the answer to that question is no, because the chain hopping that occurs, you need to actually provide the tokens, which in a transparent way that allows you to move across blockchains, We've actually got software that
So you
allows
don't
you
think
to.
chain hopping makes it any easier to hide your money? How about depositing tokens in wallets that don't require identifying information?
Seems
You
like a
can
bitch.
always split the money up into wallets that don't require.
And that would help hide the
but-
money. And how about using the
But that
mixing service?
that doesn't remove the record of where the money actually sits.
But the question
so that
I'm
hasn't-
asking is, does it make it harder to track the money?
No, so it doesn't make it harder to track the money
And
because
using a
there is
mixing service, you're telling me doesn't make it harder to launder money?
the daily
No.
liquidity value of mixing services globally is about $30 million.
So you
And
might
so
have to
therefore
do
it
this
would,
day by
would-
day.
and we have done extensive work in tracking large sums of money through mixers that have led to the arrests of
Well-
people and the disruption of their activity.
You know, I'm actually a little surprised by your answer, since you charge a lot of money to untangle and track assets through the system, and the system
Doesn't she
keeps
sound like such a
developing more
bitch?
ways to obscure that money, and that's part of what you advertise. But I want to get on to a question with Mr. Stansbury. You're a former assistant U.S. attorney who's led major cybercrime and money laundering investigations. So let me ask you, is it possible that the oligarch, my hypothetical oligarch, could now buy and sell some of the things that he wants, diamonds, art, maybe even real estate, without ever needing to put his money into the formal banking system, which also would make it harder for law enforcement to catch him?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, it's theoretically possible in today's market. Obviously, it's hard, but at least if he's able to go to a friendly jurisdiction and use cryptocurrency exchanges or some other platform that's not in compliance with internationally recognized anti-money laundering standards, as you've suggested, that is possible. There's also some reporting recently of jurisdictions being friendly for some purchases of real estate and other items through cryptocurrency.
So no one can argue that Russia can evade all sanctions by moving all its assets into crypto. But for Putin's oligarchs who are trying to hide, $1 billion or two, a few $100 million, crypto looks like a pretty good option. And that's why I'm introducing today my Digital Asset Sanctions Compliance Enhancement Act, along with 9 members of the Banking Committee, including the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and the chairman of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, and several other senators. This is a bill that would authorize the president to sanction foreign crypto firms that are doing business with sanctioned Russian entities, and authorize the Secretary of the Treasury to act. Thank you for being indulgent, for letting me run over on time. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. I do not like her.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. If we take a look at, all right, let's take a look at the crypto fear and greed index. It's actually down today, 26. But let's take a look at the charts. Look at that pump. Got to pump it up. Pump it up. You got to pump it up. This calls for the Pump It Up song. Where's it at? Pump it up. Kind of looks like my grandma. I mean, she looks a little bit like, and that sounds a little bit like one of my grandmas for sure. Pump it up. Oh. Where's the one I found this really 10 hours of nonstop Bitcoin hype music. 10 hours. Oh, yeah. We got an ad coming.
Markets.
I mute the ads.
Pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up.
So every time Bitcoin pumps, I play this song.
Don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't
is a nice juicy pump because Russia is using Bitcoin.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
I mean, I'll do this all night if you guys let me.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
10
Don't
hours.
you know, pump it up. You got
I'll
to
have to do a
pump it up.
marathon show.
Don't you know,
I'll
pump
just play in
it
the
up.
background the whole
You
10
got
hours.
to pump it up.
Hey, what's up, Red Wizard? Oh, my boy Mike. Oh, thank you, kid.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
I got sick of this yet?
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Up, 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 don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't
All right, so I'll just keep doing this if you guys let me. All right. So we got a nice juicy pump going on, and you know what? I'm gonna give credit to Russia and Ukraine because they're using crypto to bypass the sanctions that is being enforced. So that's what I think what's going on. So I am live on YouTube, and for those of my YouTube viewers, I'm live on TikTok as well. So check that out. I actually got recently got banned on
you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
recently got banned on TikTok. I don't know. We were just talking like we do on one of my streams, and I don't know. I guess I said something that shouldn't have been said. So, yeah, that was GAA. Can't even say that word. Like if I do, I might get a little ban, a little 3-day ban again. All right, I'm sending this out to some folks right now. We get some people popping in, popping off.
Pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't
I'm
you
gonna hear
know?
this.
Pump it up. You got to pump
It's
it
pretty
up,
catchy.
don't you know? Pump it up. You
It's
got to
definitely
pump
pretty
it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know?
That's bull.
Pump it up.
Yes, it
You
is,
got to
kid.
pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up.
Definitely bull.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
All right, so let's see what the daily candle is. That beard, what that beard do? Oh, it does do a trick. If you want to see the beard trick, yeah, that's what the beard do. Right. Hmm. Where is the button to flip this thing around? Not sure they got the TPS report. Okay. Oh. Couple green candles, couple red candles on the daily. All right, on the 30-minute chart looking good. I like the 4-hour chart, 1 hour. It's all good. It's all. Let's see what is going on in the crypto space. All right, market cap is getting real close to 2.9 almost, or 1.9, almost 2 trillion on the market cap. It's a man's beard. Thank you. That's a nice beard. Thank you. I'm pretty attached to the beard, and the beard's pretty attached to me. Sometimes there's a small human bird that frequents dudes' beards. Yes, one of my favorite episodes of Family Guy, where he has the beard, the bird living in his beard. Right. And you guys are going to laugh, but I'm trying to flip the camera around. Hi. Thanks for checking out my TikTok, guys. So, man, where's the button to flip this? Oh, thank you for the likes. I need to flip the screen. I can't find the freaking button. What's Wrapped Luna doing? I know that you, Wraith Wizard, I know that you love Wrapped Luna, so let's see. Let me check out Bitcoin first, and then I'll go to Wrapped Luna. What are some of your other favorites, Wraith Wizard? Well, I know you like Shiba Inu. Let's click the good as we're going by it. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom where the current news is. 3 days, 11 hours ago. FTX announced a big name brand ambassador. Ether outperforms Bitcoin. Interest. Very interesting. Muy interesante. Hi, Candice. How are you? Oh, Wraith Wizard, Four Aces, or Mike, whatever you want to call him, says hi. Ooh, Ethereum's above 3,000. That's good. And it's almost 6% up. Hey, Carlos F. Hernandez. Thanks for joining. We're talking about Bitcoin and the fact that Russia's using Bitcoin. I believe it's using they're using Bitcoin. In fact, Elizabeth Warren believes that they're using Bitcoin. We watched a YouTube clip about that earlier. So, all right, let me search Wrapped Luna, Wraith Wizard. So Wrapped Luna is got a nice little pump earlier today. It was 94 and some change. Still 94. Thank you for the lives, for the likes, Candace. Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like and hit the subscribe, please. I would appreciate that very much. So what is Wrapped Luna? If you don't know what Wrapped Luna is, Wrapped Luna is the top crypto exchange for trading in Wrapped Luna. The Terra blockchain is secured through distributed consensus over native staked asset Luna and supports the issuance of price tracking stablecoins Terra USD that are pegged to major world currencies. There are some other articles that we may be interested in. Read more. Wrapped Luna. I think Wrapped Luna the same as Luna. I think it is with a slight difference, like Wrapped Bitcoin or Wrapped Ethereum. ICP, Yearn Finance, Gitcoin, Curve DAO, Alchemix. Look at its total from start to end on Wrapped Luna. So, Terra is a blockchain protocol that uses fiat peg stablecoins to power price stable global payment systems. According to this white paper, Terra combines the price stability and wide adoption of fiat currencies with the censorship resistance of Bitcoin and offers fast and affordable settlements. Development on Terra began in January 2018, and its mainnet officially launched in April 2019. As of September 2021, it offers stablecoin pegged to the US dollar, South Korean won, Mongolian turkok, and International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights basket of currencies, and intends to roll out additional options. So it looks like they got scalability coming, some more projects. Here's, well, they got a bunch of old news on it. They don't have any new. Look at it. Okay. Let's check out what's going on. Check out what's going on with the Lightning Network. If there's any updated news. Guys, if you don't know, the Bitcoin's Lightning Network is a protocol that was approved by consensus-based to basically allow Bitcoin to have smart contract abilities. So attention in Bitcoin in 2021 has been Blue Del Salvador, yada yada. Bitcoin's Lightning Network, which boosts Bitcoin's payment speeds and allows many more users the opportunity to send Bitcoin payments, is giving Bitcoin at least an inkling of a shot at mass adoption. And in 2021, as in every other year since the white paper was released in 2015, Lightning Network developers have been tinkering to make the technology more usable for people. With the help of this background grind, the network is swelling in use. The Lightning Network reeled in a record amount of Bitcoin being used on the network. Twitter is even testing the technology to allow its users to send Bitcoin tips to each other. Guys, why is this important? It's important because of mass adoption. And if you follow cryptocurrency, you know that Bitcoin is kind of the leader. It's the most dominant. And if Bitcoin goes up, everything else does. If Bitcoin goes down, everything else goes down. It drags the market up and down. Taproot happened on Bitcoin. This year, Lightning got a huge boost from the November activation of Taproot, the biggest change in Bitcoin in 4 years to Bitcoin in 4 years. Taproot's addition of the Schnorr signatures makes it possible to add new privacy improvements to Lightning. Let's see. But there's still a lot more work. I'm going to click on this. How Bitcoin Taproot upgrade will improve technology across Bitcoin software stack. Okay. This came out February 3rd, 2021. So almost a year ago. Updated September 14th, 2021. Bitcoin's Taproot upgrade is basically a shoe-in as Bitcoin stakeholders figure out the best way to bring it online. Digital signatures are created from the private keys that control Bitcoin wallets and are required to approve transaction. Taproot addresses will use Schnorr signatures rather than Bitcoin's current signature algorithm. The elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, or ECDSA for short. In terms of data and processing, Schnorr signatures are smaller and faster than ECDSA signatures, and also have the added benefit of being linear, which means the Schnorr-based smart contracts can be optimized for functions that the ECDSA signatures cannot. These differences, look at me, look, Mom, I'm learning. I'm really glad you're learning, Kit. So, Kit, do you know how Bitcoin works? There are some great YouTube videos. If you haven't watched them, I recommend it. We'll pull up Investopedia. I get a lot of good information there. So, the Bitcoin is a network that runs on a protocol known as the blockchain. While it does not mention the word blockchain, a 2008 paper by a person or people calling themselves Satoshi Nakamoto first described the use of a chain of blocks that verify transactions of engender trust out of a network. Yada yada. I don't know, what did this say before? Because I liked what it said here. Bitcoin is a digital currency, a decentralized system that records transaction in a distributed ledger called a blockchain. Bitcoin miners run complex computer rigs to solve complicated puzzles in an effort to confirm groups of transactions called blocks. Bitcoin wallets keep a secret piece of the data called a private key, or seed, which is used to sign transactions, providing mathematical proof that they have Yeah, do yourselves a favor. Go to YouTube and type in what is Bitcoin if you haven't done so. It's like PayPal, right? PayPal accepts Bitcoin now. No, it's different from PayPal because it runs on a crypto SHA-256 that encrypts it. So it's encrypted, and you can't duplicate it or counterfeit it or hack it or anything like that. All right, back to the music.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Up, 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 Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You
Well,
got to
shit, if
pump
you're
it up.
intrigued, kid,
Don't you know,
you're gonna
pump it
love
up.
this.
You got to pump it up.
Let's do this. Let's go here. YouTube. This is a pretty good one. It's kind of long. This one might be better.
Actions. However, the bank's ledger is not. Before we talk about Bitcoin, I want to take a moment and talk about money. What is money exactly? At its core, money represents value. If I do some work for you, you give me money in exchange for the value I gave you. I can then use that money to get something of value from someone else in the future. Throughout history, value has taken many forms, and people have used a lot of different materials to represent money. Salt, wheat, shells, and of course, gold have all been used as a medium of exchange. However, in order for something to represent value, people have to trust that it is indeed valuable and will stay valuable long enough for them to redeem that value in the future. Up until 100 years ago or so, we always trusted in something to represent money. However, something happened along the way, and we've changed our trust model from trusting something to trusting in someone. Let me explain. Over time, people found it too cumbersome to walk around the world carrying bars of gold or other forms of money, so paper money was invented. Here's how it worked. A bank or government would offer to take possession of your bar of gold, let's say worth $1,000, and in return, that bank would give you receipt certificates, which we call bills, amounting to $1,000. Not only were these pieces of paper much easier to carry, but you could spend $1 on a cup of coffee and not have to cut your gold bar into 1,000 pieces. And if you wanted your gold back, you simply took $1,000 in bills back to the bank to redeem them for the actual form of money. In this case, that gold bar whenever you needed. And so, paper began its use as money as an instrument of practicality and convenience. However, as time progressed and due to macroeconomic changes, this bond between the paper receipt and the gold it stands for was broken. Now, to explain the path that led us away from the gold standards is extremely complex, but suffice to say that governments told their people that the government itself would be liable for the value of that paper money. Basically, we all said, let's just forget about gold and trade paper instead. So people continued to trade with receipts that are backed by nothing but the government's promise. And why did that continue to work? Well, because of trust. Even though there is no actual commodity backing paper money, people trusted the government, and that's how fiat money was created. Fiat is a Latin word that means by decree, meaning the dollars or euros or any other currency for that matter have value because the government orders it to. It's what's known as legal tender, coins or banknotes that must be accepted if offered as payment. So the value of today's money actually comes from a legal status given to it by a central authority, in this case, the government. And so the trust model has changed from trusting something to trusting someone, in this case, the government. Fiat money has two main drawbacks. One, it is centralized. You have a central authority that controls and issues it, in this case, the government or central bank. And two, it is not limited by quantity. The government or central bank can print as much as they want whenever needed and inflate the money supply on the market. The problem with printing money is that because you're flooding the market with more money, the value of each dollar drops, so your own money is worth less. When you see prices rising throughout the years, it's not necessarily that prices are rising as much as that the purchasing power of your money is dropping. You need more dollars to buy something that used to cost less. Once fiat money was in place, the move to digital money was pretty simple. We already have a central authority that issues money, so why not make money mostly digital and let that authority keep track of who owns what? Today, we mainly use credit cards, wire transfers, PayPal, and other forms of digital money. The amount of physical money in the world is almost negligible, and it's getting smaller with each year that passes. So if money today is digital, how does that even work? I mean, if I have a file that represents $1, what's to stop me from copying it 1 million times and having $1 million? This is called the double spend problem. The solution that banks use today is a centralized solution. They keep a ledger on their computer which keeps track of who owns what. Everyone has an account, and this ledger keeps a tally for each account. We all trust the bank, and the bank trusts their computer, and so the solution is centralized on this ledger in this computer. You may not know this, but there were many attempts to create alternative forms of digital currencies. However, none were successful in solving the double spend problem without a central authority. Whenever you give anyone control over the money supply, you're giving them enormous power, and this creates three major issues. The first issue is corruption. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When banks have a mandate to create money or value, they basically control the flow of value in the world, which gives them almost unlimited power. A small example of how power corrupts can be seen in the Wells Fargo scandal, where employees secretly created millions of unauthorized bank and credit card accounts in order to inflate the bank's revenue stream, without their customers knowing about it for years. The second issue of a centralized system is mismanagement. If the central authority's interest isn't aligned with the people it controls, there may be a case of mismanagement of the money. For example, printing a lot of money in order to save a certain bank or institution from collapsing, as what happened in 2008. The problem with printing too much money is that it causes inflation and basically erodes the value of the citizens' money. One extreme example for this is Venezuela, where the government has printed so much money and the value of it has dropped so much that people are no longer counting money, but are weighing it instead. The last issue is control. You are basically giving away all control of your money to the government or bank. At any point in time, the government can decide to freeze your account and deny you access to your funds. Even if you use only cold hard cash, the government can cancel the legal status of your currency, as was done in India a few years back. This was the state of things until 2009. Creating an alternative to the current monetary system seemed like a lost cause, but then everything changed. In October of 2008, a document was published online by a guy calling himself Satoshi Nakamoto. The document, also called a white paper, suggested a way of creating a system for a decentralized currency called Bitcoin. This system claimed to create digital money that solves the double spend problem without the need for a central authority. At its core, Bitcoin is a transparent ledger without a central authority. But what does this confusing phrase even really mean? Well, let's compare Bitcoin to the bank. Since most money today is already digital, the bank basically manages its own ledger of balances and transactions. However, the bank's ledger is not transparent, and it's stored on the bank's main computer. You can't sneak a peek into the bank's ledger, and only the bank has complete control over it. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a transparent ledger. At any point in time, I can sneak a peek into the ledger and see all of the transactions and balances that are taking place. The only thing you can't figure out is who owns these balances and who is behind each transaction. This means Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous. Everything is open, transparent, and trackable, but you still can't tell who's sending what to whom. Let's explain this with an example. You can see on your screen certain rows from Bitcoin's ledger. We can see that a certain Bitcoin address sent 10,000 Bitcoins to another Bitcoin address in May of 2010. This specific transaction is the first purchase that was ever made with Bitcoin, and it was used to buy 2 pizzas by a guy named Laszlo. Laszlo published a post back in 2010 asking for someone to sell him 2 pizzas in exchange for 10,000 Bitcoins. Well, someone did, and now the price of these 2 pizzas is worth well over $100 million today. Bitcoin is also decentralized. There's no one computer that holds the ledger. With Bitcoin, every computer that participates in the system is also keeping a copy of the ledger, also known as the blockchain. So if you want to take down the system or hack the ledger, you'll have to take down thousands of computers which are keeping a copy and constantly updating it. Like most money today, Bitcoin is also digital. This means there's nothing physical that you can touch in Bitcoin. There are no actual coins. There are only rows of transactions and balances. When you own Bitcoin, it means that you own the right to access a specific Bitcoin address record in the ledger and send funds from it to a different address. So, what does all of this mean? Why is Bitcoin such big news? Well, for the first time since digital money came into existence, we now have an alternative to the current system. Bitcoin is a form of money that no government or bank can control. Think about the time before the internet, how centralized the flow of information was. Basically, if you wanted information, you could get it from a few major players, like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others like them. Today, thanks to the internet, information is decentralized, and you can communicate and consume knowledge from around the world with the click of a button. Bitcoin is the internet of money, and it's offering a decentralized solution to money. Bitcoin has several advantages over the current system. First,
This is another good one.
Really, it helps you see math in a new way. From the Pythagorean.
So, Kit, are you still with us? Did you learn anything?
What does it mean to have a Bitcoin? Many people have heard of Bitcoin, that it's a fully digital currency with no government to issue it, and that no banks need to manage accounts and verify transactions. And also that no one really knows who invented it. And yet, many people don't know the answer to this question, at least not in full. To get there, and to make sure that the technical details underlying the answer actually feel motivated, what we're going to do is walk through, step by step, how you might have invented your own version of Bitcoin. We'll start with you keeping track of payments with your friends using a communal ledger, and then as you start to trust your friends and the world around you less and less, and if you're clever enough to bring in a few ideas from cryptography to help circumvent the need for trust, what you end up with is what's called a cryptocurrency. You see, Bitcoin is just the first implemented example of a cryptocurrency, and now there are thousands more on exchanges with traditional currencies. Walking the path of inventing your own can help to set the foundations for understanding some of the more recent players in the game, and recognizing when and why there's room for different design choices. In fact, one of the reasons I chose this topic is that in the last year, there's been a huge amount of attention and investment and, well, honestly, hype directed at these currencies. And I'm not going to comment or speculate on the current or future exchange rates, but I think we'd all agree that anyone looking to buy a cryptocurrency should really know what it is. And I don't just mean in terms of analogies with vague connections to gold mining. I mean an actual direct description of what the computers are doing when we send, receive, and create cryptocurrencies. One thing worth stressing, by the way, is that even though you and I are going to dig into the details here, and that takes meaningful time, you don't actually need to know those details if you just want to use the cryptocurrency. Just like you don't need to know the details of what happens under the hood when you swipe a credit card. Like any digital payment, there's lots of user-friendly applications that let you just send and receive the currencies without thinking about what's going on. The difference is that the backbone underlying this is not a bank that verifies transactions. Instead, it's a clever system of decentralized trustless verification based on some of the math born in cryptography. But to start, I want you to actually set aside the thought of cryptocurrencies and all that just for a few minutes. We're going to begin the story with something more down to earth: ledgers and digital signatures. If you and your friends exchange money pretty frequently, paying your share of the dinner bill and such, it can be inconvenient to exchange cash all the time. So you might keep a communal ledger that records all of the payments that you intend to make some point in the future. Alice pays Bob $20, Bob pays Charlie $40, things like that. This ledger is going to be something public and accessible to everyone, like a website where anyone can go and just add new lines. And let's say that at the end of every month, you all get together, look at the list of transactions, and settle up. If you spent more than you received, you put that money in the pot, and if you received more than you spent, you take that money out. So the protocol for being part of this very simple system might look like this. Anyone can add lines to the ledger, and at the end of every month, you all get together and settle up. Now, one problem with a public ledger like this is that anyone can add a line. So what's to prevent Bob from going and writing Alice pays Bob $100 without Alice approving? How are we supposed to trust that all of these transactions are what the sender meant them to be? Well, this is where the first bit of cryptography comes in: digital signatures. Like handwritten signatures, the idea here is that Alice should be able to add something next to that transaction that proves that she has seen it and that she's approved of it. And it should be infeasible for anyone else to forge that signature. At first, it might seem like a digital signature shouldn't even be possible. I mean, whatever data makes up that signature can just be read and copied by a computer, so how do you prevent forgeries? Well, the way this works is that everyone generates what's called a public key-private key pair, each of which looks like some string of bits. The private key is sometimes also called a secret key, so that we can abbreviate it as SK, while abbreviating the public key as PK. Now, as the name suggests, this secret key, it's something you want to keep to yourself. In the real world, your handwritten signature looks the same no matter what document you're signing. But a digital signature is actually much stronger, because it changes for different messages. It looks like some string of ones and zeros, commonly something like 256 bits, and altering the message even slightly completely changes what the signature on that message should look like. Speaking a little more formally, producing a signature involves a function that depends both on the message itself and on your private key. The private key ensures that only you can produce that signature, and the fact that it depends on the message means that no one can just copy one of your signatures and then forge it on another message. Hand in hand with this is a second function used to verify that a signature is valid. And this is where the public key comes into play. All it does is output true or false to indicate if this was a signature produced by the private key associated with the public key that you're using for verification. I won't go into the details of how exactly both these functions work, but the idea is that it should be completely infeasible to find a valid signature if you don't know the secret key. Specifically, there's no strategy better than just guessing and checking random signatures, which you can check using the public key that everyone knows. Now think about how many signatures there are with a length of 256 bits. That's 2 to the power of 256. This is a stupidly large number. To call it astronomically large would be giving way too much credit to astronomy. In fact, I made a supplemental video devoted just to illustrating what a huge number this is. Right here, let's just say that when you verified that a signature against a given message is valid, you can feel extremely confident that the only way someone could have produced it is if they knew the secret key associated with the public key you used for verification. Now, making sure that people sign transactions on the ledger is pretty good, but there's one slight loophole. If Alice signs a transaction like Alice pays Bob $100, even though Bob can't forge Alice's signature on a new message, he could just copy that same line as many times as he wants. I mean, that message-signature combination remains valid. To get around this, what we do is make it so that when you sign a transaction, the message has to also include some sort of unique ID associated with that transaction. That way, if Alice pays Bob $100 multiple times, each one of those lines on the ledger requires a completely new signature. All right, great. Digital signatures remove a huge aspect of trust in this initial protocol. But even still, If you were to really do this, you would be relying on an honor system of sorts. Namely, you're trusting that everyone will actually follow through and settle up in cash at the end of each month. What if, for example, Charlie racks up thousands of dollars in debt and just refuses to show up? The only real reason to revert back to cash to settle up is if some people, I'm looking at you, Charlie, owe a lot of money. So maybe you have the clever idea that you never actually have to settle up in cash as long as you have some way to prevent people from spending too much more than they take in. Maybe what you do is start by having everyone pay $100 into the pot, and then have the first few lines of the ledger read, Alice gets $100, Bob gets $100, Charlie gets $100, etc. Now, just don't accept any transactions where someone is spending more than they already have on that ledger. For example, if the first two transactions are Charlie pays Alice $50 and Charlie pays Bob $50, if you were to try to add Charlie pays you $20, that would be invalid, as invalid as if he had never signed it. Notice, this means that verifying a transaction requires knowing the full history of transactions up to that point. And this is, more or less, also going to be true in cryptocurrencies, though there is a little room for optimization. What's interesting here is that this step removes the connection between the ledger and actual physical US dollars. In theory, if everyone in the world was using this ledger, you could live your whole life just sending and receiving money on this ledger without ever having to convert to real US dollars. In fact, to emphasize this point, let's start referring to the quantities on the ledger as ledger dollars, or LD for short. You are, of course, free to exchange ledger dollars for real US dollars. For example, maybe Alice gives Bob a $10 bill in the real world in exchange for him adding and signing the transaction Bob pays Alice 10 ledger dollars to this communal ledger. But exchanges like that, they're not going to be guaranteed by the protocol. It's now more analogous to how you might exchange dollars for euros or any other currency on the open market. It's just its own independent thing. This is the first important thing to understand about Bitcoin, or any other cryptocurrency. What it is a ledger. The history of transactions is the currency. Of course, with Bitcoin, money doesn't enter the ledger with people buying in using cash. I'll get to how new money enters the ledger in just a few minutes. But before that, there's actually an even more significant difference between our current system of ledger dollars and how cryptocurrencies work. So far, I've said that this ledger is in some public place, like a website where anyone can add new lines. But that would require trusting a central location, namely, who hosts the website, who controls the rules of adding new lines. To remove that bit of trust, we'll have everybody keep their own copy of the ledger. Then when you want to make a transaction, like Alice pays Bob 100 ledger dollars, what you do is broadcast that out into the world for people to hear and to record on their own private ledgers. But unless you do something more, this system is absurdly bad. How could you get everyone to agree on what the right ledger is? When Bob receives a transaction, like Alice pays Bob 10 ledger dollars, how can he be sure that everyone else received and believes that same transaction? That he'll be able to later on go to Charlie and use those same 10 ledger dollars to make a transaction? Really, imagine yourself just listening to transactions being broadcast. How can you be sure that everyone else is recording the same transactions and in the same order? This is really the heart of the issue. This is an interesting puzzle. Can you come up with a protocol for how to accept or reject transactions, and in what order, so that you can feel confident that anyone else in the world who's following that same protocol has a personal ledger that looks the same as yours? This is the problem addressed in the original Bitcoin paper. At a high level, the solution that Bitcoin offers is to trust whichever ledger has the most computational work put into it. I'll take a moment to explain exactly what that means. It involves this thing called a cryptographic hash function. The general idea that we'll build to is that if you use computational work as a basis for what to trust, you can make it so that fraudulent transactions and conflicting ledgers would require an infeasible amount of computation to bring about. Again, I'll remind you that this is getting well into the weeds beyond what anyone would need to know just to use a currency like this. But it's a really cool idea, and if you understand it, you understand the heart of Bitcoin and of other cryptocurrencies. So first things first, what's a hash function? The inputs for one of these functions can be any kind of message or file. It really doesn't matter. And the output is a string of bits with some kind of fixed length,
All
like
right.
256 bits.
So we'll stop there if you guys want to learn more. So I've watched this video a lot. After rereading what I said, it sounds wrong. So here's what I really meant. In 2017, when I got into Bitcoin, I actually did not know what it was. So I started researching it myself. And the reason why is because I asked a mentor of mine, I said, hey, are you invested in Bitcoin? And here's a millionaire that owns his own businesses and, invests in a lot of stuff. But he said, no, Josh, sorry, Midas, that's Midas power. He said, no, because I don't understand it. I don't know how it works. And I don't want to invest in something that I don't know anything about. So that made a lot of sense. It resonated with me. And so about a year and a half ago, when I did invest in Bitcoin then, I didn't invest very much. I wish I had invested more. I wish I had researched it more, but I didn't until later. And what I learned once you go down the rabbit hole is I believe that it is absolutely, positively, 100% without a doubt, the future of finance. I believe that cryptocurrency is the way that we are going to transact in the future. Excuse me. It's been a long day. So take a look at the chart here. What's been going on is ever since our all-time high of 69,000, we did drop down a little bit. And now from about, I want to say, January, towards the end of January, we've been pretty much trading sideways in this channel right here. It's consolidating, and I believe that's bullish, and I believe that's a good thing for Bitcoin. I do believe that there's a strong chance that we could see another all-time high in 2022. I did not draw this. I got to give credit to Twin, my future brother-in-law. He helped me with these charts right here and drawing this range right here that you see the blue zone right there. I'm yawning too. It's way past. Yeah, I just realized it is 10 o'clock where I'm at, deep in the mountains of Colorado. So listen, guys, I'm going to wrap up this stream. Thank you very much, Kit, for joining. Thank you very much, Wraith Wizard, the Wizard of the Wraith. Appreciate everything. Appreciate the comments. Guys, join me tomorrow. I'm going to try to stream and go live every day. Power Bros, Crypto